and my good people over there. You guys are seeing behind the scenes on two different perspectives. This is kind of fly. I'm actually really
cool. Yeah.
But if you actually want to see the real thing, you're going to have to visit the YouTube link and a guy named Cook's Instagram, or we're good to go. Ooh, I think I see it on the live.
I do.
Hey, alright. So then, drop that intro.
Never come forward and say we don't need capital.
No cap. To be capped up.
9 o'clock on the dot, no you should tap me. Here for an hour, I promise this talk is heavy. I'm cooking, just get it started, don't go asking if it's ready. I'll be damned like we bout to break a levee. I sweat all of this content, push my conscience to a beautiful dark, twisted fantasy. I'm a monster, my posture looking like we was winning Oscars. Far from an act, but still acting like we got sponsors. Define us by the work we do, you know the work of few. Willing to get down in the trenches for the perfect view. So if you at me, then be sure to mention purpose too. And alignment, we own it, far from consignment. I seen the light, it was blind to contribute this all the time. Let it breathe till you find it. Get fresh, then set the table for guests. I told you that we was cooking, this compliments to the chef. Let's go.
Alright, welcome ladies and gentlemen to another episode of Cooking the Late Night. I am your host, Cook, and this is the morning show for creatives, and as always, we have another creative show built out for you guys tonight. As you know, at this exact moment in time, simultaneously, the presidential debates are happening, so we do want to make sure, although our audience is tapped in through YouTube, you guys are also understanding what's happening in the world, and you are out there, you are registered to vote. With that said, to those companies that keep emailing me to get registered to vote, I've been voting since I hit 18, so I appreciate you, but we good on this side. But to anyone else out there, please understand that this is an important time and your voice matters. Now, as for today's show, let me tell you something. I got my homegirl in the building, so you won't see me laid back. You won't see the jokes coming out, because this is family that's coming to the table today. We got Jasmine Gibson, one of the best marketing strategists this side of the Mississippi River. So you're going to want to tap in with that. But as always, we have a producer set up for you guys. Let's see what my guy A-Ant got going on for us.
What's good, y'all?
Alright,
boy.
take a seat. Hey,
Man,
she back.
we're cooking a late night tonight.
Hey, it's lit.
Beef for
Y'all
y'all.
mind?
Let's see what we can do.
I'm about to pour this in.
Let's do it. So that way we're not. I can hold it. Which one did you want now?
Alright guys, you are back.
Alright, so sure you're wondering what's taking place in that second that you cut away from us. A couple things. Clearly, the one, the only Jasmine Gibson's here, and if you may have noticed from my story, she is an avid supporter of the show. Anytime she watches the show, she has a glass of wine, so you know, on brand, we have wine, we have jazz. Please introduce yourself to the people.
What is up, creatives? My name is Jasmine Gibson. I am the CEO of Miocoa Strategies. We are a marketing firm. And yeah, that's the easiest way to explain the work that I do. So we are really excited to talk tonight. This is my dog, my guy.
Hey.
I feel like we're gonna act a fool tonight. So for my audience, if you've never seen me in this light, I pray that you understand what's happening. For Cook's guest, you know he cuts up a lot, so I'm ready to jump into this thing, talk through, and see what's happening.
Let's do it with the.
Wait, and before because I didn't even like toast.
Let's toast.
Toast to Cook and the late night show for really putting on for creatives. We are absolutely positively grateful for you.
Hey. Yo, honestly, she's a professional toaster. Like, I don't even know if that's a thing, but she is, so I will salute.
Okay.
Ooh, I see the vibe tonight.
Okay, you know. I want to say it's like a 2017 Malbec. It's an 18. It's an 18 Malbec. Usually I don't like an 18, but whatever. We're going to do it tonight.
Hey, we here. We live in effect. We creative. So let's start with the most basic part of this question, okay? First, let's talk. How did you, because you had a background that was in communication and public relations, like you went to college for that. Yeah. How did you get on this track, and what was that switch like?
So in the grand scheme of things, I started and I had this big goal. So like with my audience, a lot of people know me because they knew me to be Olivia Pope. And that was my dream. Like,
hold up, wait. I mean, can we go to the people? Can we go to the people? Can we just bring her up. Like,
Oh Lord! So for y'all that don't get to see the YouTube, people that are following me and Cook's pages, I'll definitely tap with the YouTube later and show you guys what's happening. But Cook pulled up a picture of me in the Senate building when I used to do the daggone thing and government and public policy. It's so wow. How'd you find it? That was Facebook.
hey, no,
That
look,
was
I'm
Facebook.
everywhere. You never there. Like, you know what I mean? You know what the vibe
That
are.
was Facebook.
You look real Olivia Popish. Like, so
Yeah.
how did, I mean, were you into politics?
Yeah, that was my thing. Like, I thought government and public policy was going to be my wave. I thought eventually I'd run for office. As y'all know, my mouth has no filter. I have so much freedom. So now
And
I can never see that happening.
Based on what we recently had in office,
You know.
your filter might not be the worst filter.
The standard has been set now that I'm thinking like, okay, well maybe I can do this. But yeah, that was really my path. Like I thought I was going into government and public policy. I thought I was going to run for office. It's such a whirlwind. And then I got into a position where I was doing a lot of great work in Baltimore, and eventually someone approached me from DC, and they were like, listen, we see what you're doing. We'll pay you triple what you make if you come to DC. So, yeah, fresh out of school, making 80K.
Talk about
80K.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a huge advocate for making sure like people get paid their work.
Sure.
And it's like a lot of times people always say things like, you can't come fresh out of school making a lot of money. I had one job fresh out of school, and then I had another job after that. That second job, 80K, easily. So, and that was because people saw the value. So if you're bringing value to people, I mean, that's really what it's all about. If you can bring value to someone, they dropped me 80K, and I was like, wow. Then I started getting around women who were adamant about you talking about how much you make.
Wow.
And so here's this thing that I'm gonna drop right here, but always make sure that you are being open and honest about how much you make with other women, because women are in a space where we don't know what each other are making. So then you come out the gate and you're like, well, we only make 40K, and then you look at this man who's making 70K, and you doing the stuff that's on his desk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I just came out the gate having like this huge confidence of like, I'm making 80K.
Yeah.
I'm the only person on my team making 80K.
Yeah.
Like, and so instantaneously I was just like, that's my route, and that person moved me into communications and marketing, and it's been like a dream ever since.
Now, there's a few things that you said that I really want to like kind of dissect a little bit,
Yeah.
especially for those who are tuned in and like, yo, that's a great point. But how do you broach the conversation with whether colleagues or just your women peers of like how much you make? Because you don't want it to sound like a flex. You want to be like, hey, I'm trying to gauge our market. What's your thoughts on that?
I want it to sound like a flex.
You want
Because
to?
I want every woman that's beside me to be like, dang, Jazz make how much? Oh, all right, good. The bar is set now. I'm trying to get to where she is. And then the minute that person surpasses me, then we are like, sis, let's go. How did you get to 200K? How did you get to 500? How did you get them to pay for your transportation? Like, how did you navigate these conversations? And how are you able to negotiate for yourself? Like, those are conversations that marketing has really taught me were important. It's like, how are you advocating for yourself? How are you showing your value and your worth? If you are doing it in a way that people would say like, oh, that's dope what you're doing, but they're not willing to pay you, there's more value that needs to be brought to the table. And sometimes value doesn't look the way that we think it's supposed to look. So sometimes you're like, oh, I can bring you value, I got this. Like, this is just an example. I got this late night show, and let's say we're talking about like white people, right? Like if they were coming to the show, right? And usually the audience is predominantly black, but we growing.
Of course.
So let's say the audience is predominantly white, right? And you keep bringing all these black artists to the table. That might not be for them. That might not be something that they can relate to. So the value, while it's great value for you, would sell out 10 times better if it was another platform. And so that's the thing that I think a lot of people are missing, and that marketing really helps me be able to do, is talk through value, talk through positioning yourself, like talk through what it really looks like to see money differently and see yourself differently.
Yo, see, and you guys can see why, like, this is like one of the people whose lines I hit when I need that spark of motivation, but also just need to keep it real, because you know I think what you said is true. It's not only, it's determining your value. And I know that you got paid $80K and then you're like, oh, this is my bare minimum going forward.
Yeah.
But, you know, talk about, and maybe this is going to be the transition. Let's actually just start. How did Miocoa Strategies get started? Let's go into that, and then we can go further into value.
So honestly, truly, come on, listen. So truly, God. Like, I have no other explanation besides God. I wasn't working enough. Like, in the average scam of like what we expect people, like, you should probably not leave your job unless you have a certain amount of years or a certain amount of dollars in your bank account, all this stuff. Like, shorty just leaped. Like, God kept pushing me to leap. And if anybody knows what disobedience feels like, I don't move in disobedience no more. I've been disobedience one time and never again. When God say go, you gotta go. And so I was commuting back and forth to DC from Baltimore. Y'all know I hate it. Y'all know I hate it. So at the time,
I'm about to say, footnote here for those who aren't aware of who Jazz is. A 20-minute ride is pushing.
It's pushing.
A 40-minute ride, you gotta be paying a bag. Anything past 40 minutes, you have to be dying and really close and personal to her. So just a frame of reference.
And honestly, I was actually Googling this, you know, like late night research, right? So late night research, I do believe that I had highway paralysis.
Okay.
So it's a real thing, y'all. It's a real thing. So highway paralysis.
She's like the character on Shameless that like won't leave the house. Like that's Jazz.
I hate it. Like I pray all the time, like, God, my husband has to be like somebody that understands driving. Like, I hate this. And so what it really looked like was I was driving. I hated it. I was actually listening to a podcast, Blessed and Bossed Up. At the time, it was Tatum Tamir, which became one of our clients, but it's also her and her co-host, Milan Mobley. And they were talking about entrepreneurship and like how hard it was, but also just like how you let God kind of lead you and it just works. And they were dropping footnote after footnote on entrepreneurship. I'm like, it's starting to sound easy. And I'm one of those people that if I put my mind to it, if I put like Google to it, I got my PhD from Google College, okay? And then I got my master's from YouTube University. So if I can't figure it out between Google College, like, and YouTube U, maybe it's not for me.
It's not the cost about it.
That's
when you hire our services.
But for the grand scheme of this, I was like, man, I'm tired of commuting. They're talking about entrepreneurship. God has this thing that he does with me, is when I'm incredibly, like, uncomfortable, that's my moment. And so literally that was my moment, and I just left my job. Like, no plan, no business plan, no money. Now that, and
that's what's poor. But that's against every rule that they tell you before entrepreneurship. And I like that, because the thing is, if you always wait till things are in line, you'll never leave. Like, you will never find yourself taking that risk if you're waiting for all the cars to line up and the ducks to line up in a row. So to take that leap, what did you know what your services were at least going to be?
No.
Like, you just like entrepreneurship, like.
I didn't even know that part. At the time, I had done this thing called like the Millennial Advancement, right?
Okay.
And so it was resumes, cover letters, etc. I was like, man, I'm good at this. I'm good at negotiating. And so at the time, I helped a bunch of people be able to like negotiate their salary. I'm like, I'm good at this. Like, I'm good at getting raises. I'm good at bringing value to people. So I'm like, let me just do that for the time being. And I started there. And then I had to tap back into my roots and was like, listen, you love advocacy, you love government, you love public policy. Like, what you gonna do? And I picked up a few people, and it was God consistently reminding me that I did not want to be in it. And so I was like, I don't want to be in it, but I want to advocate for it. I don't want to be in government anymore. Like, I don't want to be in it, but I want to be a part of it, but in a different element. And so then I started thinking through, like, what is the social component that we're missing? Who is a population that I advocate for 24/7? Who can I be like who can I just be myself with? Like, sometimes when I'm in the room with certain people, it's cool. But if I'm in the room with nothing but black women, like, it's a different vibe. And so I was like, yo, I'm gonna do my dogs. Like, we gonna hold this down. Like, I'm putting on for black women. And I decided to say, like, whatever, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna do this for Black women. And that's how Mioco came about, because I was like, okay, well, I'm good at social media marketing. I've been doing it in every role, even down to like helping people create like resumes. It was like getting their social and LinkedIn's together too.
Wow.
So it was like, yo, you're good at this. Like, why not do this? And then how it blossomed is all God, because
Yeah.
I have weeks where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Like, I'm not even striving for nothing bigger than this. Like, I'm comfortable. Like, I have those weeks where I'm just stuck. Like,
You're in an ideal situation. Like, the thing that you're asking for is there.
it's there.
Anything more is, it will be nice, but it's not required.
Exactly. And I think one of the things that I had to be mindful about is that's my mindset shift about wealth and about what God does when he says exceedingly and abundantly more, right? And so I got into this comfortable space of like, God has provided my bills, God provided my place, like I provided all these things, like I don't need nothing else. Anything else I thought was selfish to even ask God for.
Wow.
And then I was like, started reading, people were like, girl, you better ask that man for what you want. And I'm like, I feel like that's rude to ask God for more when he has taken care of every single prayer that I put down. And then when I started asking him for more, it was like, he was like, great, toss that in, toss that in, and I was like, yo, what is happening? And that's when I realized that the business was truly God's thing. And so a lot of times people were like, how'd you do it? I don't know. What did you do? I don't know. Like, I really don't know. It was all God. All I did was listen when he sent me people. When I seen people that I didn't enjoy working with, I put boundaries in place. And then I built like systems so that everything was automated. Like in a week right now, and this is 2 years into business. In 1 week, I spent about 10 hours in the business.
Wow.
I don't even work. Like I'm 26 though. Like, and I don't work.
Flex, no, flex. You hear all the flexes, right?
Like,
26, works 10 hours a week, and you can't get with her. It's like,
you know, put that out there. Put that out there.
You know, but-
I'm sick of. I'm not even gonna go there.
Hey, no, we'll cover that a little
I'm
later. We
sick
can talk.
of it.
But
I'm sick of it.
Where did the vision, or where did the name Mioco come from?
Yeah, so we were putting together sounds, and there is a statistic in marketing, y'all, that says if your business name is 6 digits, six digits. If it is 6 letters or less, it generally performs the best, right? And so I'm like, okay, cool, I can do this. When I tell you nothing was available for domain. And so I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, I'll do what like we used to do in corporate. We used to have to like go through sounds in the alphabet and put sounds together until it made something. And so I think we started with like yen. I think yen was the first thing we started with. And then we started with like ni, like N-E-E. And like all of these different things in other languages got a little offensive.
Sure.
So I was like, dog, we're gonna be global. So like we can't, be offending people over in China.
That's good money.
You know what
That's
I mean?
some good
Like,
money you
we
was
ain't
in
about
there.
to be in Malaysia, like offending somebody.
Yeah, that flight will change.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Cool. Like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And it started with me. And I was like, man, it's about me. It's about my passion. So let's go with me. Me in every single language means me or my. Mayo is just in another language, but it still means me. And so I was like, okay, Mayo. Then at the time, my ex-boyfriend, his sister, sweetest thing in the world, she's like, okay, but what's in a black woman's closet? Like, if we're going to do this for black women, what's in a black woman's closet? Cocoa. Cocoa butter, cocoa everything is in every product that is in our homes, right? Our skin is clear because of cocoa butter. Like, we are cocoa butter, right? Like, it was all of those things, and I was like, it's a vibe. So originally, it was like me cocoa or something like that, and I was like, it's not 6. I want to stick to, like, 6. And I was like, drop off co. Like, we're doing this. Mioco. And that's what it came to be. It's like, in translation, it means my blackness, but...
Hey, okay, Flex. Nah,
you know.
Hey, I can't hold
know.
on. This is my first time hearing of the backstory of this. Like, you
Really?
never given me the... I just always accepted it for your brand name because it is what it
no,
is.
that joint means my blackness.
Yo, so, I mean, in embracing that, you know, how have you made it a point to, you know, provide value to the people you sought out to build for while actually scaling your business, because
Yeah.
I mean, financially, to narrow your window to say I'm supporting this group means you alienate a lot of business. So how was that thought?
Mindset shifts easily. So when people would say like you're alienating yourself, I was like, I don't know about y'all, but I don't think I can handle 1 million clients.
Right.
So we are 4.6 million strong in terms of Black-owned businesses. If I could just get 10% of that number, we should be good for the rest of my life. And so that was my thing, was like, I stopped thinking small. And that's when I asked God to like, give me a bigger vision. Like, teach me how to be as large as I can be. Like, teach me how to do more. And how to be more and how to see more for myself.
Sure.
When I tell you that man don't disappoint, that man don't disappoint. And so God did his thing, and he was like, Jazz, like, he literally wrote it to me. He was like, these are the services you're going to have. This is how much you're going to do, and you're just going to have to figure it out. Now, when I first started, one of the challenges I faced was I was thinking small. And so that's why I think it's so important to have a mindset shift, is because early on I was like, man, Black women don't make no money. The joke is on everybody. Like, first of all, there are people like Six Figure Chick, right, who has a full business. Yeah, rest in peace, Cece. But like, there are women like Cece who have full businesses serving nothing but Black women and teaching them stuff, and she made $1 million off of them. And so when I started saying like, okay, Jazz want a piece of this pie. And so I asked God, like, is this okay if I start going after this? And then he put people in my life, like, shout out to 2 of my closest friends, Miocoa Holmes and Teju. Both of those were great women who came into my life and were like, sis, bigger, bigger, bigger. And I was like, y'all, but I'm okay with making my $2,000 a month. Like, it's covering at the top. Like, I'm living at home. Like, it's covering what I needed to cover. They're like, bigger. And then it was that first 10K month when I was like, y'all talking about Black women that got no money, and my business is solely supporting and helping Black women. Like, we don't help anybody else. We just got like a first Black male who is on our team, that's going to be one of our clients, but he was the first. Like, the business was built, and this is why my heart goes out to Black women, is because this business was built on the backs of Black women. And even my interns, people that worked for the organization, my contractors, like, all Black
designers,
women.
All that.
My designers have held it down for me like nobody's business. And like, do I want to work with other people in the industry? Absolutely. But I'm really trying to be proof of concept. That a lot of times people say things like stupid old, we're working on it, Lord, working on it. Stupid old, like the Wells Fargo guy who's like, we can't find Black talent. Like, so it's my goal in this space to be like, how do y'all saying y'all don't know where Black advertisers are? Sure. Black creatives. So my man's got a whole show for Black creatives, right? Like, how are you telling me that you can't find these people? Sure. I'm sitting here looking at your producers, right? Like, I'm looking at the people that I know hold it down. Yeah. How are you saying you can't find these people? And so I really wanted Miocoa to be proof of concept and proof of promise. 1, that Black women are killing it. 2, Black women business owners, if they have what they need, will truly be supported. And then on the flip side is like, absolutely positively, there are people that are working in marketing, that are working in comms, that are working in advertising, that need to be supported, and they are going to work for my organization. And even like, I had a girl, shout out to Bianca, Bianca C Designs. Bianca was our graphic designer. She's back now, thank you Jesus. I love you for Bianca. B's back as our graphic designer, right? And proof of promise really looks like me saying, oh my God, I love Bianca so much, but she left to really pursue her own business. Anyone else probably would be like, girl, don't leave. Like, when I tell y'all, Bianca holds me down. People would be saying like, how you gonna let her go? Like, you need to find more money for Bianca, et cetera, et cetera. And like, I wanted to, like, I really wanted to, but it wasn't about money for her. It wasn't about the position. It was literally about, it was time for her to pursue her own thing. And so proof of concept looks like me being able to say like, I've even like mentored other Black marketers and creatives into their own roles. Like, I don't take that lightly at all. Like, sure. That's what proof of concept looks like for me.
And I would love to just dive into proof of concept a little bit, because for anyone who's a creative, again, understand that when people come on this platform, although they're speaking from a professional, a certain career, this is something that's applied across the board. And proof of concept is something that's really key. This show had to start with proof of concept. It took me doing it on Instagram to convince people that I consistently wanted to do it for it to actually become a show. And if you have any idea, before you're trying to create a pitch deck, before you're trying to do marketing strategy, all these things, you have to start it and actually show people that it's a realistic idea.
Yeah.
Like, I can't walk in a boardroom like, all right, boom, peak game. This is what I want to do. Late night show, black creative.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna be like, what are you talking about?
Where are you going with this?
And
Why are they watching your show?
Right,
What are
like,
you going to do that someone else isn't doing?
What do you bring to the table?
Yeah.
And it also gives you that opportunity to show them that variable of you.
Yeah.
Right? Because an idea is an idea until you put yourself in it. And then it's your idea. And then it's your vision, your passion, your dream. And so, I love that you apply that in the, mentorship space. Like, the proof of concept is replicating me.
Yeah.
Like, that's a whole concept. And so, one thing I would like to even just bring up, and I'm gonna bring up highlight this photo real quick.
Lord,
Because a lot of entrepreneurs don't make it to this,
You know what? You are simple.
So this is year one, right? This is after 1 year of business.
Yes.
That is typically the toughest part for entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Talk about what resilience did you meet in year one that allowed you to push through, that you had to push through?
So in year one, I still wasn't making money. I was making the bare minimum, and that's when I talk about like not really being able to pay all the people that I needed to make this dream a reality. One of the biggest things for me was like, I am not building a solo business. I refuse. It ain't my calling, it ain't what I'm doing, ain't my ministry, I don't play that.
Sure.
And so I knew that I needed to at least bring in enough money to keep my contractors happy. And so resiliency looks like constant turnover, because I couldn't pay quality people. And the people that were coming through the door, while they were good at what they were good at, some of them still needed training. And I didn't have the mental capacity for the training. So like, that was the stuff that was like problematic. You know what I mean? Like, that was the stuff that started to eat away at me and make me question like, God, did you really tell me to do this? Because it felt uncomfortable and I did it like you told me. And then you kept bringing me client after client, and that was the thing. The other major issue that I think a lot of people face is like not knowing how to charge.
Okay. Look, let me tell you something. Because it's relative, right?
Yeah.
It's what you value your time to be. And hopefully, what would be your first recommendation for someone trying to set their price points?
Yeah, I would always say start with what is your hourly rate and how many hours do you believe you are going to put into this project. Because when you do it that way as a service-based business, you are technically being paid for your time.
Gotcha.
When you do it any other way, you are, like when I used to itemize things out, like, okay, I need a photographer for this brand, I need a videographer for this brand, I would then forget to pay myself. And if I forget to pay me, that means I forget to pay my contractors. Like, so Miocoa brings in nothing, but our photographers are paid, our videographers are paid, our graphic designers, like whatever, everybody else would be paid, but Miocoa wouldn't be paid. And that meant that I produced an issue for my contractors. They weren't paid more, so they weren't willing to deliver more.
Sure.
And that was such a hefty season for me, to the point where I was like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
all of this.
Like insert beats, like the SpongeBob.
But like, it was like toss it in the air. Like, I don't even want this joint no more, because I need people. I can't do this by myself. I don't want to do this by myself. I don't think it's beneficial to do this by myself. And I can't pay people. Why is it I can't pay people? And then it was like, girl, you paying, like, you're charging people these cheap rates because you are thinking that black women do not make enough money to pay you. How crazy is that? And then the minute that I literally asked everybody to go up, they were all like, okay. Like, so you telling me, and this is
I wasn't getting paid for me.
This is like real talk, y'all, when you're in entrepreneurship and in business, right? We were charging like $300 for social media marketing.
A month?
I feel so embarrassed to even admit that that's how crazy it was. And still we were delivering. We would hire publicists. we would hire videographer. And we're talking about $300 a month. So we would be banking on people paying their contract in a 6-month period, like paying it all up front. If people paid it all up front, I would take all of that money and split it across like the publicist, the graphic designer, this person and that person. And then at the end of the day, I'd be like,
oh, that's it for the next 6.
okay, so we don't got no more money. Like, we don't have no more money, and I didn't even get paid. The team didn't even get paid. Like, and that is when mindset shift became a real important thing for me. Was like, you can't play small. Like, black women can't afford for you to play small, because if you're playing small, they are looked at as small. So that's number 1. Number 2, stop counting people's pockets without knowing what they're going through. Every business owner that was really coming through our doors, none of them had like a certain follower count, right? I know that that's a vanity metric for some people, but it seems to be something that like everybody just cannot understand. But like, none of our clients at the time had more than 5K. Almost all of them, I would say 85% of them, were bringing in about $1 million worth of sales.
I mean, I'm not
and we're talking about like me and my team literally sitting there like, so we ain't got no money.
Like y'all
we don't have no money.
Yeah.
And it was like that's why I think it's so important to like humble yourself too. Like, and come from a space of humility, and that's why I walk with such authority and confidence, because it's like, I've seen it now. I've seen what it looks like when you play small. I've seen what it looks like when you play larger than yourself. And I just think about like, it was really a mindset shift that said, stop playing small and stop counting black women small, because then you're doing what everyone else is doing to black women. And it's saying that they are so small, and then they don't make enough money, that they can't afford these things, and they can't afford to bring their businesses up. And it's like, that ain't the case. That ain't the case. And I took that, and that was more fuel and more motivation. So even on the days where I'm like, man, I'm trying to quit, you know, like, I don't want to do this, I'd rather sell this and give it to somebody. Like, you know, on those days when I had those moments where I'm being truthful about what it looks like to be a business owner, what my exit plan looks like, what my retirement plan looks like, because, child, my husband best to get his feet ready. When I tell you we are traveling, he better not play with me, okay? Like, we
hey,
are
if you out there, Neff, please have your passport already. We're not going to even have him go, like, don't put yourself through the process. But there was something that you were mentioning that I really want to express, especially to those who are out there, to understand how to apply to yourself. Because that lesson that you taught, I actually learned in a retail store. I used to work at a music store, and a part of our sales commission was selling people instruments.
Okay.
And so when people come in, I would look at like, I mean, a saxophone was like $3,000, and they're getting it for like their 6th and 7th grader. So I would feel bad. I used to be like, hey, this is the cheap model. Like, I used to try to get people to the $700 one. I was thinking, but one of my supervisors pulled me aside and said, you can't sell people spending your money. So I looked at it like, I'm not buying a $3,000 instrument.
Ain't no way.
So I'm not selling you a $3,000 instrument. But I had to switch my mind and say, no, it's not my money to call. And there needs to be a day where I can comfortably buy this $3,000 instrument. And so it was just that small detail in the fact that you really cannot predict what your audience is willing to pay for the work that you put out there. That goes for anyone that's in the service business, anyone that's in the art business, creative field. Anything you do that you put a price to it, you have to put that price tag on it and let it hang there. Don't put it on sale. Don't discount yourself. It's going to attract the people that it's supposed to if you are doing the work that you're supposed to. Now, that means you can't say, oh, I'm $1,000 to do this, and you don't return emails, you don't follow up on phone calls, your graphic designs are sloppy. There is a caliber, a standard that comes with that type of money. Because if I'm putting $3,000 on it, it better give me $3,000 worth of revenue.
And I think that's an important part to note, right? It's like, even with my audience, I talk to them a lot about just money in general and how to bring it in, but also return on the investment. Always measure the return. One of the things that we had a client who had like of course, y'all know I don't like to share too much about my clients. I had to think about how to say this comfortably and privately.
Blank.
Yeah, you know.
Plain blank.
So client A, they needed a website, instantaneous. We didn't toss this into their rate or anything. We just was like, screw this, complimentary, we'll help you with your website because you're already a client. They needed a website built in almost 48 hours. Between me and my graphic designer, when I tell y'all Bianca holds me down, the Lord knows I don't play about Bianca. Like, whatever she needs, the girl can have. Like, she want my house, have it. Like, you want my car, take it. Like, whatever. Bianca held me down in a great part of this business. And so, that client, at the time, needed to convert all of their audience from a certain space. And they needed to convert them into like an event. And I remember saying, like, if we do this website, the point of conversion and the return on this is going to be so heavy, because essentially we created a landing page for all of the people who have just been like in their audience not doing anything, but just loving on the person and that. And so we created this website in 48 hours. When I tell you that the person hit 6 figures within 24 hours of launching their event, that's when I was like, the price goes up. Instantaneously, I started going into Dubsado Life, and we will be charging and because
for your web landing page.
Boop, because what? How did we, like, you know, and that is the smallest scale of just like building you a website and having you a landing page and doing it complimentary. That's why a lot of times people are always like, do you believe in starting and, you know, not charging and stuff like that? And for Black creatives, no, I don't. For Black women, absolutely not. The world don't pay us enough. Okay, the world don't pay Black creatives, and culture moves because of Black creatives. Yeah. Culture moves because of Black women, right? Yeah. And so without Black creatives and Black women, there is no America. And so with that being said, I'm like, no, I don't believe you should do anything free. Now, if you are a white man, sure, do it for free. Like, your world looks different from ours. Do a lot of stuff for free. I don't care. Give us all $1 billion. There was a story that I was listening to with Sarah Jakes Roberts' podcast earlier today. And she was saying there was a billionaire. He had $8 billion, and he's just giving it away. And when she's talking about the organizations that he's giving it to, I'm sitting there like, huh. It's almost as if you gave it to everybody that's not doing the work, but they're pretending to do the work. And now I'm sitting here like, so why are me and my team out here trying to help y'all big companies when y'all getting handouts? Yeah. Y'all getting handouts. Right. It's just like how we take influencers or like NBA players and NFL players and WNBA players. Like, we will give them free products, and they got the money to pay for it. Right. That's right. How does that even work? Wow. Like, are we listening to ourselves and we are banking on a return on the investment, but if you don't give one, you've lost out on money. And you've lost out. To translate for anyone who might think like, okay, that's a one world, it's the occasional, yo, do this for the look. Like, bruh, what is the look anymore? And secondly, what's the look? Secondly, for anyone who I do understand the idea of, we talked about proof of concept. So someone's probably like, well, how do I get proof of concept without actually doing stuff? Sometimes if you have to be your first client, be your first client. Be your first client. Be that person who's like, hey, my marketing strategy is me. This is the strategy. You see how you That is so dope, because one of the things that I had said I was going to do for my dad for Christmas, I pray that he don't watch this, y'all, because I ain't got the type of time. And we're going to leave this don't send it to my dad. Everybody know my dad, my road dog, so definitely don't send it to him. But what I said for my dad is he's had this business now. He does home improvement here in Baltimore and in the Baltimore metro area, and he's been doing it for so long now. He doesn't have a website. Only has his cell phone number that we've all had, like literally the same phone number that he uses, the same one we all call. You know what I mean? So it's like he has no like real system. And I was like, for Christmas, I'm gonna just build you a website. Like, I'm gonna build him a website, build him a business card, give him a logo. Like, I'm gonna just do the whole 9 yards, so he can just be like, look, now you're official. And like, generational wealth might not have been his goal when he first originally started. I definitely know he was starting for different reasons back then. But where he is now is like, that business could literally fund me and my sister for the rest of our lives. And then on top of that, I have a business that's going to fund me and my husband for the rest of our lives. Then added my husband, who's going to have a revenue or an income that's going to fund our lives. So like, we're talking about extra excess of money if we just start being intentional about how we use it. And one of my closest friends, she always tells me, she's like, you know, really be intentional about what Black wealth looks like. Now, I don't feel like I can't even gain the courage or the confidence, and like, if you know me, you know I have a lot of confidence, right? Like, I'm usually super cool. I'm introverted, but I'm not shy, and I think that's what a lot of people just don't understand. I'm also confident, and so when I go into the room, some of my confidence be like dimming down a little bit. Like, I be like, let me tone down.
You try to adjust your light to the room.
Let me tone down. When in reality, like, the room should have been meant for me regardless. The room should be bent and folded and shaped around me in my experience anyway. And so, like how I think we talked about this before one time when I just hopped in impromptu for a show, but like there was a company that reached out to me who was doing advertising. They do advertising in Baltimore, and they're like advertising, not an agency, but they like sponsor advertisers and marketers. And they came to me, and I love them so much, so this is definitely not the shade. I thank them, and the woman that came to me, she is definitely what I would consider an ally. And she's not self-proclaimed. I'm proclaiming her an ally. And so she goes, she's like, you know, hey, I'd like you to give us access to your audience so that they can attend the event. And I remember sitting there like, have you ever been the only person in the room? And she was like, no. And I'm like, yeah, no, because you would have never asked me to ask black women or black creatives to come into a room filled with white bodies and white faces. And not only are y'all white faces and white bodies, y'all are a brotherhood and a sisterhood already. Like, y'all know each other, y'all been working with each other for a long time. So the breaking of the ice that we have to do and the showing up that we have to do is going to be so immenseful, especially as an introvert. Going into a lot of those rooms, when I come home, I don't, like, that's the end of the work week. Like, that's the end of the work week. It's like, the only thing I can do is support my team. And so, for me, it's like, I can't even measure or tangibly put into words what it's like being the only person in the room. All I can say is that there were a bunch of women who responded to me and said, I don't know about cis, but that's not my experience. And I'm in chemistry, I'm in bio class, I'm at PWI. Like, the people that responded to me affirmed me in a way that I knew I wasn't crazy. And I'm like, the heaviness of being the only person in the room, you can't put words to describe that. There is no way to describe how small you feel, how large you have to make yourself, how minimal your confidence is in a room, how you have to boost up your courage, how you have to encourage yourself. Like, there are no real words to describe how to be the only black woman in a room. Like, there's no way to describe that. All I can say is that my work and the work that I'm doing is setting women up so that we don't have to be the only ones, and that if I'm the only one going in, that my sisters are in my pocket and they are on speed dial. Because when I get out of there, I'm like, girl, why today? And what in the world? And I really do thank, like, both of my mentor sister friends, Miocoa and Tasia, because they are people and women who were like, Jazz, go into that room, do it, we got you. And they were like, here's what you have to do when you get in there. This is what the proposal should look like. Don't let them not offer you a board seat. Don't let them not give you payment for X, Y, and Z. They were the women who were like, dream bigger. Get the money that you need for people to have access to your organization, to your audience. You have to think bigger. And so for me, that mindset shift of like how to think bigger and how to really allow God to do exceedingly and abundantly more made the difference.
Jazz, I love that, and let me preference all this by saying, you know, first off, thank you for constantly not only building up the courage to step into those spaces and to own those spaces accordingly, but then to come out and to report to those who weren't in the room, to let them know, hey, this is what's coming, this is what's happening around us, without you knowing it. Because although, and not breaking any NDAs, I don't want anyone talking about we got permanent NDAs over here.
You know, y'all know I love an NDA.
Permanent, like one of those, hey, what's your name? If you can sign this real quick.
If you would sign right here at this line, then we can talk.
But, you know, to the best of your abilities and for what you're able to disclose, you always find yourself in a position where you might tax the next person,
Yeah.
but you'll show love to the people that look like you and that represent what you're going for. So
Yeah.
I want you to know I appreciate that.
Thank you.
With who you are and what you've built. I mean, 2020's been a year. How do you see yourself kind of just next steps? What are some next phases for you and Miocoa Strategy?
When I tell you I can never answer this question because God's hand has been the only thing that's been on the business. Like there's like that meme that's going around right now, like my biggest flex is like God's hand has been on it.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. The only thing that I can say is that for me personally, I'm looking forward to serving on boards. I'm looking forward to having my contractors retired from their jobs and into Miocoa full time. I'm really looking forward to like that next revenue bar, because a lot of people know, but like revenue is like one of the things that really sticks out to me, profit margins. So that's something. And I'm really looking forward to the bigger organizations paying us to tap into the audience group that we have. I'm ready for them to be like, Jasmine, it's time. And I'm like, all right, $50K, I told y'all how to do it. You can give me a $1,000 check up front, then you can pay for my first class. I like the Louis on the table, and then you can sign this $50K check. Like I have nothing back into me tenfold, so I don't care. You can have it. Yeah. Like if it looks like you needed to sleep on my couch, like have it. Like have at it. Like whatever I can do to just support Black women, that's game for me. Even if like I think you've seen this, but Keisha and I did Super September. And Super September looked like us saying yes to certain things. It looked like us trying to figure out what it looks like to be a well-rounded woman and not just a businesswoman. And that's deep, because a lot of times, especially for women, we are high achievers, so we go straight into like achieving and knocking off one thing after another and tasks and goals and metrics. But for me, it really looks like legacy looks like being able to help another Black woman know that she can be authentically herself, she can make money, and she can live a life of freedom despite what America KKK looks like. Like, despite what this country is doing to us, despite what Breonna Taylor had to live through and be and endure, like despite every single thing, despite the pain that's in my voice, like despite being the only one in the room, we are literally going to do this. And it's going to, the revolution is going to be televised, number one, but the revolution is going to be on the backs of Black women. So it's time for us to collaborate, build community with each other, and legacy for me looks like having my hand in that.
So that's it. Like that's the show forever. We're done. This is our last episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. But no, I mean honestly, you know, I think everything that you said into the stance and the point that you say, it's very much or very important that we double down on what you just said.
Yeah. Like,
you know, we can't say support Black women, listen to Black women, love Black women,
and then listen to Tory Lanez.
Oh my gosh. Valid. Because that's very much and something that I was even talking about earlier. Just, you know, as a Black man, regardless, something happened to this Black woman in your vicinity.
Okay, all right. Pop culture moment. Pop culture. Pop culture.
Right before. Let's do it.
If you gonna say that that's your girl, if you gonna announce to the world that that's your lover, your boo, let me tell you something. If my husband ever let a gun go off next to me, and it hits me, my husband better light this joint up, okay?
I can tell you from me. I can tell you
that
from me.
can't be like, how is that your girl and you let that happen? So if it wasn't you, Tori, then who?
First off, let me let this be really clear, because as Jazz being one of my actual friends, like anytime I'm around my women friends, I still have a sense of concern. Like I'ma hold the block down, like. We can go out like, yo, you don't like how he's talking to you? You gotta just chill out. It's just decorum, you know?
I'm just thinking about the men that were in my life. Prime example, right? Shout out to Rias, right? Echelon, my bad, Echelon, right? Shout out to Echelon. I had posted the other day, like, it's really sad to me that I have never felt I've never felt safe. Ash was like, absolutely not, go get your HQLs, like get your gun, like it's on. And I was like, you know, I never thought about that, like in my past life, you know, it was a little different, but In this life, I was like, that wasn't even something. Ash was like, that's your HQ. I was the next week. I was like, HQ. I was retweeting. What's up? Like, you know, like it was one of those moments. So I don't know what it looks like for you, but what I'm saying is like I've never been in a space with my homies, even with the dudes that I'm talking to or dating, where the joke is on me, where somebody's going to shoot a gun. Is going to hit me and my man ain't gonna pop off.
And be quiet for like several months. But again, this isn't that episode.
You know? And we thank you guys
other...
so much as we move to our producer.
Right. Cue up the producer, as Jazz says. Listen to black women.
All right, y'all.
Perfect.
And as you can see,
hey.
we got that track next up.
So y'all tuned in. We are playing the producer beat right now. Shout out to Jazz audience. I'm on.
No, hey y'all.
I'm on.
Y'all, we are tuning out because we are 1 minute left.
Oh,
so,
yeah. Let me go.
my dog, we had some fun tonight. If you,
my homie.
You know,
the GOAT.
We walked up a little bit tonight, and make sure you guys tune in. I'm going to add a link to my bio, and we'll see you there.
All right. And we got. I'm rapping. I'm rapping.
I'll let your boy.
Alright, back to you now.
Alright, so another amazing episode of Cooking a Late Night. Y'all know normally the guest is gone, but this is Jazz, so I'm gonna let her close this out tonight, and I'm gonna sip my wine.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Good morning to all the creators out there. Stay cooking. Any words closing to the creators, Jazz?
Whatever you need to do in your life to support and respect the black woman, get to doing it right now. We love you from a distance, but right now, no longer on our backs. So, we will holler at you guys next Thursday for another show.
Hey,
well, this Thursday.
This Thursday. My guy, Riz. Riz here this week. Young Ash.
Okay, but we are toasting to black women. We are also toasting tonight to black creators. We are toasting to my guy, Cooking a Late Night, and in this platform. And I thank you so very much for having me tonight.
I thank you for coming on. Sips. Take care.